All right, time for the annual buy or wait video in the spring before all the new TVs come out in 2025. And I'm going to go over all the major TV brands and let you guys know what new technology is coming out, and then if you should buy a TV now or wait for that new technology. So let's get right into it. We'll start with Samsung because Samsung is the first company that I normally see at CES, and they always have really cool new items. This year they had another generation, fourth generation QD OLED, and this was actually Samsung display. And what is cool about this is that they have a new 4000 nit QD OLED in a 3% window. So you're taking it from like 3000 to 4000 nits, using more blue light, being more efficient, less energy, but still making it brighter. Pretty awesome in such a great TV like the Samsung QD OLEDs and the Sony QD OLEDs if they have them this year. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but I'm really excited for that QD OLED. Now, the only downside is they're not going to have it in anything larger than a 77 inch. So like last year when there was an 83-inch S90D, for example, which is one of their models, that was actually a WOLED panel. So you can still get that. It's a pretty good deal, $3,200, $3,300 for an 83-inch size. I mean, I did originally buy my Sony A90J for, I think, $8,000 at this same size, and then eventually it went down to like $4,000. But to get this at $3,300 is a pretty good deal. But let's go back for a second because the flagship was the S95D with that anti-glare or glare-free matte finish. That's $37.99 for a 77-inch, still rather expensive. Do you like that glare-free finish? I'm not sure. You know, I did like the S90D, as I said. Getting that in the 77-inch for $21.99 as it compared to the $37.99. I might recommend that. It's such a great TV, and then it has that still kind of like OLED glossy finish that people like. Really knocks the reflection down well. So if I was to say buy or wait, I would say, you know, like many of these that I'm going to get to, it's going to be very expensive for the next model up. I would imagine that at 77-inch, that new generation QD OLED top of the line is going to come out, you know, $4,000 to $5,000. And so this is at $2,200. If you're in the market for a TV, this is fantastic, and I think it's unanimously liked for its movie capabilities, less Dolby Vision, but movie capabilities, watching and upscaling regular content, and then of course gaming. It's very good. So I think that this is a really good buy, and of course still quite the premium for the S95D, and then that matte finish. Now here's some good news, bad news. They're going to be extending that matte finish to some of the QLEDs this year. So the qned, the qn900F are going to have that matte-like finish on their top models. Everything except, I think, the 115-inch size. So if you're getting the smaller sizes, you're going to be getting that matte finish. I'm going to be interested to find out what people think about that and if it's going to make them get TVs from last year, because I mean, you do have this QN90D from last year. Now, it wasn't my favorite TV, and if I had to choose between a 75-inch QLED TV or a 77-inch QD OLED TV, I'm gonna go with this QD OLED right here. This is awesome. It's not even close for me, and it's $200 less. So for Samsung, I would say my most likely candidate to buy would be this 77-inch. And they have this S84D at Best Buy. It's kind of like a unique product. I don't know a ton about it, but I know last year they had a QD OLED specifically for Best Buy that undercut the price of the S90 series. And it looks like this is probably similar. It might have a more generic stand. I think it is QD OLED. I can't confirm that, but maybe someone else knows. I would recommend, you know, this is a savings of $400. I would imagine there's not much difference besides the stand, maybe a little bit of features here or there, but probably more or less very similar. And then lastly, you know, they have the Samsung frame, right? We talk about this. It's kind of the first video I ever made on YouTube was about installing a Samsung frame. Here, they have the normal Samsung frame, 65-inch, $12.99. That's not terrible price, to be honest. It's pretty good. And if you're going to get it just for the art mode, then I would consider just buying this now. But they are making a new Samsung Frame Pro, which has mini LED with full array local dimming. It's going to have a zero connect box, or a wireless one connect box is what they're naming it. I think LG might have stolen that name. But it's awesome because it would be really cool just to put the frame up on the wall and plug it in behind it with the recessed power outlet and not have to worry about whether or not a cord that you're running inside the wall is up to code, or maybe it's just a pain in the butt in general. I mean, a lot of times there's a power outlet on the wall, but there isn't a channel for you to run wires through. So this wireless one connect box should go over just as well as the fact that this is going to be a mini LED TV as well. So if you're actually looking for the TV to be like a showstopper, like, you know, actually be a really good mini LED like QLED from Samsung, a Neo QLED, then I'd probably wait, because I'm definitely going to get one in my house this year and maybe upgrade Jen's office and show you guys what it looks like, but it looks like that new mini LED Neo QLED Frame Pro is going to be competitive and be a really good TV. Now, I bet you it's going to be expensive as well. So if you're just looking for mostly artwork and then a pretty good TV, this frame or even the regular frame in 2025 should be pretty good. And then lastly, they will have art mode on a lot of the TVs now, on the QLEDs, on the frame, on all that. So, you know, if you're a big fan of art mode, the ambient mode's pretty nice, but having actual art mode is going to be awesome. So a lot of cool things from Samsung. You know, there's other TVs coming out. I don't have all of it, but my point is there's a few good deals with Samsung if you're going to buy right now. And I don't think you necessarily have to wait for the new TVs to come out and then be expensive at first. And then, you know, by the end of the year here, of course, their QD OLEDs and their QLEDs are going to be priced well. But right now, I think you could buy some pretty cool Samsung TVs. Now, talking about QLED specifically, because I had mentioned that, you know, I wasn't a huge fan of the qned this last year because it's still rather expensive and you have stuff like the Hisense and the TCLs that are really coming up. Hisense had some cool stuff at CES as well, including their new like RGB trichroma mini LED that's going to be in the UX model with the 116 inch and the 100 inch. So for me, getting a 116 inch TV with that bright of color and that, you know, vibrancy, like I thought it looked amazing. And I think everyone did. I saw Linus there. We saw Vincent Teo there, you know, Caleb Dennison from Digital Trends. Everyone was pretty in awe of this new Hisense backlit with color, not just bright or dark, but also color in the backlight system. So I think that's going to be dope. I think if Hisense has it, if TCL has it, if Sony has it, I mean, you know, if all these different companies are kind of coming out with the same kind of technology, I think it's going to be pretty awesome. So in the UX models, that's going to be awesome. But we did not see their actual like ULED lineup, their typical like 8 series, 7 series, 6 series at CES this year, hoping to see that early in the spring. So I'm not really sure if their models like the U8N upgrade is going to be any better. I'm sure it'll be better, but like how much better if they're focusing on these UX TVs? Hopefully it's going to be a similar step up as usual for Hisense, but I was pretty impressed in 2024 with their TV, specifically the U8N. Amazingly bright, very colorful, great operating system with the Google TV OS. Everything moves much better. It's a much smoother operating system and TV in general than a few years ago, and it's priced well. I mean, right now, $12.99 for a 75-inch U8 is significantly less expensive than some of the other comparable models. I mean, if we're talking about that 77-inch OLED TV from Samsung, I mean, that was $2,100. So it's $900 less for 2 inches less in size. And honestly, if I was to say, give me a TV that's very competitive with OLED TVs, I'd say this Hisense U8N, and the fact that it's inexpensive is still such a great deal that I would say I would go ahead and buy this, even though I know the new technology in the UX is coming out. And I love the UX from last year, the 100-inch, but I mean, that's like $4,500 and kind of unavailable. It's not even available on Best Buy. So, you know, you're going to have to buy now, which means you can't buy something that's out of stock, right? Or wait. And so I would say the U8N was one of my favorite mini LEDs. They also have the U7N, which is a significant difference here. So you're talking about almost $300 less expensive here for the U7N. I got this for my parents. I've seen it in multiple situations. Great TV. There's a little bit of blooming, but for the most part, I love this for most of my family members. Like they're really not TV aficionados. And with that said, $949 is still rather expensive for like your typical TV. A lot of houses I go in have generic little Roku TVs for like $300-400. So a 75-inch, significantly less expensive than that $1,300 of the U8N. Really good TV in the 75. You go to 65, it keeps getting better. You know, now you're down to 716, which is awesome. And if you need a 55-inch, which I know this is the TV my sister has, it's less than $500. So, you know, I think that's a really good deal and I would recommend that. Now, Sony, we don't have a ton of information on Sony. I am going to get more information hopefully soon. I know that there's this leaked slide out there on the internet showing potentially some of the models coming up in 2025, but for me, they don't really look accurate. I mean, Bravia 7 Mark II mini LED. I mean, we know that there's a Bravia 7. I'll show you in a second. We know there's a Bravia 8 right now in 2024. So why would they make a Bravia that has an OLED but also has mini LEDs with the same name? It doesn't really make much sense to me. Same with Bravia 9. They're going to make an OLED version with MLA. I mean, it just doesn't really seem like that would be the naming structure. And a Bravia 10, which is another mini LED. So who knows? I mean, I don't know. I have no inside information on what Sony is going to be coming out with yet, but hopefully soon I will have that. I would like to note that Sony A95L, which is a 2023 TV, so this is almost going to be coming up on 2 years old, is such a great TV. I really take it for granted. I mean, it is a fantastic QD OLED, remarkable processing, remarkable upscaling, like whatever I watch on it looks fantastic. And the remote is really cool. I know the remote is not something that most people think about, but for me, this is the perfect remote. I mean, it's backlit. It's got a nice metal finish. It's got the perfect button structure. Like, honestly, this is the perfect remote. I just want to let you guys know. So if you're in the market for a nicely priced, oh wait, it's still $5,000. So literally the exact same price as when it came out a year and a half ago. So when it comes to Sony, I love the products, but right now there's really not much that's discounted. I mean, look, even the Bravia 9, which is now crowned the best mini LED TV ever made, is $200 off its original price from 6 months ago. So really not many discounts when it comes to Sony, but the products are fantastic. I mean, even this Bravia 7 75-inch is $21.99. So for me, I mean, that's similarly priced to that Samsung S90D QD OLED. And I don't think that I would be buying that probably. I think I would be buying that QD OLED TV. So tough with regards to these discounts. Even this 77-inch Bravia 8, pretty good TV to be honest, but still $3,000. So you're never really getting a huge discount on Sony TVs, maybe a little bit around Black Friday. So you could probably say maybe wait to see what comes out in 2025 just because there's not that much of a discount. But I did want to highlight the Sony X90L. It is discounted. I mean, right now at the 85-inch, it's only $1,700, and that is significantly discounted because normally the 900 or 90 series LED is actually under $2,000 or around that. So for $1,800, getting an 85-inch version of this or getting it in other sizes is going to be, you know, a nice savings. This is again $1,000 for 65-inch, and if you're going even further down in size to the 55-inch, looks like it's still $1,000. So I don't know why you'd pay $1,000 for 55 if you could pay $1,000 for 65. So a couple different TVs, you know, like we said, this is still $2,000 for 65-inch Bravia 8. You know, not one TV at the X90L that's significantly discounted and the rest of them aren't. So we'll see what happens with regards to Sony. I'm excited. I do think that they'll come out with something new and impressive, and then you'll have an opportunity to pay a lot of extra money for it because Sony does make quality products. And the A95L and some of their sound systems like the Bar 9 or the Quad, those speaker systems are awesome. And for the price, I have that Quad system set up out in my living room and it thumps pretty good for something that was, you know, under $3,000 all in for the entire system, including a sub. It's pretty awesome. So I like that. Now, TCL. They did have some new versions of their really big TVs. They're, you know, TCL is kind of this go big or go home situation right now. QD mini LED TVs, a lot of brightness, a lot of color. Again, their TVs like Hisense are becoming more efficient. I don't really have any issues with them. I know some people say, oh, well, with those two brands, the TVs break down sooner or they're not a reputable brand. And I disagree with that. I just take the TVs here, we review them, we have them for a long time. I have, for example, a Hisense that's been outside in the elements, including being rained on for 4 years, and it still works just like the day I bought it. So every company can have something that doesn't work and can crap out on you, and you may or may not get good support. I don't know the brands. I kind of get anecdotal evidence of every brand having issues and every brand being awesome in my comments. So I think TCL is pretty good. I think that their products are getting fantastic, you know, year over year. And obviously the price is right too. So 75-inch QM7, which is very similar to the U7N of Hisense, is $900. And this is a great TV. Very bright, very colorful. Again, does have a little bit of blooming like the Hisense, but you can also move up into the QM8. I've done a bunch of videos on QM8. We actually recently gave away a QM8 to one of my good friends who watched the Super Bowl on it. Unfortunately or fortunately for me, I'm glad Kansas City didn't win, but he was pretty bummed. But yeah, it was a pretty cool video. Check that out. We'll link it here if you guys want to check out the cool giveaway that happened with regards to the 98-inch QM8, but it's an awesome TV. He was super stoked, and you can get other sizes of it here. 75-inch is $12.98, very similarly priced to that other Hisense we talked about, and then $8.99 for a 65-inch, which is a good deal as well, even less than that 8 series. Now there is the new TCL QM6K coming out. Now we were big fans of this Q6 that came out. This was not mini LED, but it was a great price point, and at the sizes of 98-inch and 85-inch, it still had a 120 hertz panel, could game 4K 120, had pretty much everything you could ask for, not local dimming nor the mini LED as we said, but still pretty good TV, and it gave everyone the ability to get into a 98-inch TV at a really low price. So I'm a big fan of the Q6, and so for me to know that there is a QM6K coming out that's going to have mini LED and QD mini LED, more color, more brightness, all the same gaming features. The panel is going to be a little bit faster. I think it's going to be a 144 hertz panel, if not faster than that even, and maybe be priced similarly with the mini LED being under 2,000 bucks. Now this 85-inch says it's going to be 2,000 at start here. It should be coming out pretty soon. Now, even though it may not be for everybody because it's going to be really expensive, it's cool that TCL has two different versions of a 115-inch QLED TV. You're going to have the QM8 and the QM7. So I know that the QM8 at the 115-inch was really expensive, but having a QM7 will give us another model. They just keep stretching the limits with regards to the size of the TV and what we can get. And so I'm going to have to get one of those 115-inch TVs in my house to see how good it is compared to like having a projection screen up, because with a lot of ambient light, those projectors can get dim pretty quick. But if you have one of these mini LED TVs that's almost the same size, that's going to be awesome, and it's going to maintain brightness and just be a better display as long as you guys have the space for it. So a lot of great things from TCL as well. I'm excited for TCL in 2025. Now, last of the brands that I saw at CES is LG, of course, and there's a lot of cool things from LG as usual. And one of the specific things that I'm excited about is the new panel that looks to be like a tandem stacked panel, allowing for a lot more color, a lot more brightness than the traditional WOLED. Even with the MLA and everything that they had technology-wise in 2024, this G4 was something around 3,000 nits peak brightness, and people were talking maybe it doesn't have the same color gamut that, you know, the QD OLEDs have, for example, so maybe it's inferior. I thought the G4 was one of the best TVs, if not the best TV in 2024. You know, and it's still rather expensive, but it's not as expensive as the A95L, which was the other TV people considered to be the best TV. So it's a full $1,000 less right now. So if you're going to buy one of the best TVs of 2024, $1,000 less for the G4 with basically every feature that the A95L has. Maybe not quite as good at upscaling, but processing upscaling's gotten a lot better in the G4, G series in general, LG. I think it's really close, and I actually picked this because I just was mesmerized with how great this looked when we were, you know, using it for gaming and had it out in the living room, especially with the soundbar that matched. Really cool look. But the new G5 this year blows it out of the water. I think Vincent from HDTV Test already did a video where he measured it over 4,000 nits of peak brightness on a very small window, which that's incredible. So like the QD OLED from Samsung Display, which can be over 4,000 nits, you're talking about extremely bright highlights that make the OLED TVs just stand out and makes it very hard to just pick a mini LED TV unless it's for the size you're getting, like in some of those, the 98 or larger. That's why I just talk about the largeness of some of those sizes. And, you know, some of the smaller sizes are less expensive. But the G5 this year with the tandem stack panel being more efficient, being brighter, looked really great at CES. We got to see it right up against the G4, and it's like remarkable. They also have the Zero Connect box available on the M5. So that's basically the only difference, is you're going to have cords or no cords connected to it. For me, if you're going to have to connect power, then HDMIs are not that complicated to connect. But it is pretty cool to have a version of it with the Zero Connect box that can actually go in the cabinet too. So last year it was supposed to be in line of sight. This year it can be out of sight and still work. So I don't know, which one of those would you guys choose? Would you go for the M5 or the G5? Both of them are going to be awesome with that new panel, super bright. And then of course you're going to have a C5 again. Now this is what, the 11th or 12th year of having LG OLED TVs. Again, this one will not have that like tandem stack panel, I believe. I think that's just going to be in the G and the M. But you know, you have always consistent quality out of the C series. It looks really cool on stands. It's like one of the coolest looking TVs, so thin at the top. And the quality has gotten better year over year. I remember back in the day when the upscaling didn't come close to like a Sony, for example, maybe the C10, C9. I mean, it still looks really good when you give it a great signal, but when you would watch something that's not 4K, like, you know, just watching regular cable, it didn't upscale as well as Sony TVs. Now, it's a lot closer in 2024, 2025 as far as how the LG OLEDs handle lower quality signals. But if you're feeding it like high quality gaming or HDR, then these look fantastic and they're much less expensive. And if you're talking about buying something now, the C4, $1,500 for a 65-inch, always a great deal. And same with the 77-inch at $199. Now for me, if I had to choose between this LG C4 and that Samsung S90D at the exact same price at $2,200, very difficult decision. The only thing that the Samsung does not have is Dolby Vision. While being the QD OLED, being brighter, having more color, you know, upscaling, both of them are pretty good at upscaling. So it's a tough call. I don't know. I'd like to hear what you guys have to think. I believe that both of these are 144 hertz panels. And something I failed to mention is that in 2025, I think a lot of these TVs are going to be 165 hertz panels, including the G series, including some of the Samsung QD OLEDs. So you're going to have faster refresh rate, and you're going to have the ability to game on these with computers at a higher speed. So a lot of cool upgrades there. So I like the G4. I like the C4. If I was going to buy a TV right now, maybe get the C4 or that Samsung S90D, because I really like those OLEDs. They're both discounted pretty heavily. And the G4 is not so much discounted heavily, but it's still a really good TV. But you know, if I was going G series, I might wait for the new panel just because I think it'll be really awesome. And then they do have some qned TVs. They're less expensive. They're more in line with some of these other ones like the Hisense and TCLs. But honestly, dollar for dollar, I would probably stick to the Hisense or the TCL just because I had such a good time with the U8N. Great TV. It's the one that we use in the gaming room right now. Kids love it to game on. It's really good. Very minimal, blooming, super bright TV. Great for gaming, and it's really caught up. So big fan of the Hisense and the TCL mini LED TVs. Now a little bit of a bonus here. I did not see Panasonic TVs this year at CES, but I do know that they are starting to send them out here in the US, and you're able to buy some of these, the mini LED, the OLEDs. Looks like their OLED TV also will have that tandem stack panel. That's going to be brighter and better than anything we've seen before with regards to WOLED. So I'm excited to see if Panasonic will send over something for me to review and compare versus the G5. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, looking back at this right here, you know, really expensive for 65-inch TV. So I'm not certain how great this is going to be here. I know it'll look good, but a Fire TV, $3,200, I'm not super comfortable recommending it because I don't know a ton about these. And, you know, I feel very comfortable recommending the S90D at $1,000 less of a price, or I'm pretty comfortable recommending the G4 as well. It definitely looks really awesome on the wall. 77-inch for $800 more than a 65-inch Panasonic. I think this is great, but I definitely want to know what you guys think. Are there any TVs that you're kind of contemplating right now? Are there any ones that you want to buy but you're not sure? Let me know in the comments and I'm happy to respond. And make sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. And I'll see you guys in the next video.